Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. Let's continue exploration of three character Chinese phrases in this month. And I view it as grassroots language creation because if it's time-honored, classical Chinese expressions, most likely it's 4-character Chinese phrases, but 3-character coming in an odd number is kind of a create this imbalance, but as well as dynamic. So it's a very lively part of the language expressions. So I want to share that with you in October. Okay, 老古董 is today's expression, and we heard this expression a lot when we are attributing that to a kind of grumpy old man image in English. So we may say somebody who is a 老古董 means most likely somebody who are more senior in age, kind of stuck in their ways of thinking or behaving. Then that's somebody who is unchangeable, like immalleable. The formation age was long gone, and that person is set in his ways. And but 老古董 also is kind of the upholder of the traditional values and practice. And when the new waves or ways or technologies comes, they are resisting. They are not incorporating what's the latest and newest to their everyday life. But they keep telling the younger ones what to do, how to do. So that's that's what's embedded in this 老古董. But I never unpack. I thought it's related because 古董 is a besides 老, this 2 and 3 positioned Chinese character combination also means ancient artifact. Something can be auctioned to a very high price in later days if it's proven as artifact from ancient times. So that's 古董. But when it has a lot added on before it, I thought that means really, really old, old ancient artifact. But now I have a totally different view of it after I study each character and put them together as if I'm participating the creation of this expression, and each individual character contribute a dimension of this concept that makes so much more sense to me now. Here's my discovery. Okay, 老, I translated in a very lengthy English expression, but that actually means the original Chinese classification of age group. That's 70 plus age group, septuagenarian. Septuagenarian. Okay. I guess in ancient times, the lifespan was like half of the contemporary lifespan, right? Currently, probably for Chinese is around 78-ish. So ancient times is like half of that. It's not even 40 years old. So majority of people pass out by 40, and whoever made it to their 70s, they are some really wise old person that knows how to either have superior longevity genes, or they're lucky through life, didn't really got impacted by war, famine, disease. Like they made it to their 70s. That's in itself is quite an accomplishment. Okay, so ancient times, whoever made it into their 70 plus age group is like a rarity. It's probably equivalent of today's over 100 years old. Okay, so that's the cultural significance of 老, and we the language depict 老 with this dagger sign. But okay, I'm reading this dagger sign because it's kind of a rotation of, it's a flipping and the rotation of a human figure. Chinese ancient human figure look like this. You see the structure of this? It's kind of looking like this, but this is a rotated, flipped and rotated image of this human figure. So that means human changed over time. That kind of implies the human development or growth or aging. So that changing factor is in here. And then the top, somebody said it kind of depict the visual of when people grow old. One main features of how they are being old is their hair was no longer kind of well combed or trimmed, or I don't know, like people in their older age, they probably don't care about how people see them on their, personal hygiene or upkeeping, trimming, like they don't really care about grooming anymore. So the hair like grow in their puffy way. Okay, picture Einstein, right? Okay, that kind of hairdo. So it's depicted over here. And actually here is a Chinese hair symbol. So it's no longer like a, combed or tied banded hairdo. It's in its natural fur form almost. So this is the Chinese hair symbol, kind of horizontal going strokes, and the left tilted corner, left tilted is a signifier to distinguish it from the hand symbol. So this is the hair symbol. It could be animal fur or human hair, okay? And then this long stroke going downward like that, somebody say, hey, it looks like a cane, because by that age, you probably won't walk on your two legs alone. You need assistance. I hope that doesn't happen to me, but okay, that's the ancient depiction of when people coming to that old age. Hair, unkept hair is one feature, and holding a cane is another feature, and this is change factor, symbolize aging. So aged person, when a hair becomes that, it's most likely 70 plus. Okay, we have the mouth symbol, this kind of up tilted corner box. It's like a smiley face kind of mouth. That's mouth symbol. And then the top, okay, it's not crucifixion symbol, okay? Chinese doesn't have the concept of cross as in English. So even if structurally they look the same, nothing to do with cross. This is roping, ancient record keeping method. Before we have computer digital storage, right? Before we have print press or invention of a paper, how people in everyday life keep record. I owe you money, right? People rope, they tie knots on the rope, and if you untie it, probably there are ways to tie it permanently, so become permanent record. You cannot mess the record up. So when rope, you tie the knot permanently on the rope to signify number 10. Why number 10? I'm thinking if you own somebody and the money keeps increasing, you can still manage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 10, right? With your fingers, you can still kind of remember, but up to 10, it's like too much to remember. We have to clear out the plate, starting from the record keeping with 10 fingers, but the original 10 unit is going to be tied into the knot. That's my imagination of the rope keeping, record keeping method by tying knot on the rope. So this vertical line is that rope in abstract form. And then the horizontal line is the indicator to show there is a knot on the rope. The knot, because we cannot really draw the knot like a tiny dot on the rope, it's not visually distinguishable. So by, it's a kind of an arrow pointing. In today's symbol language, Chinese just use one horizontal line intersect with the rope to signify there's a knot over there. Okay, so 10, mouth, means somebody, well, in Chinese it means ancient, and in Chinese concept of ancient, probably 10 generations represented by the mouth. So 10 generations is old enough or ancient enough to be regarded as ancient. And another interpretation is it's traced back at least 10 generations earlier, and whoever can understand their language, understand the wisdom, preserved somehow from ancient times to now are the people who understand ancient. So there was a certain, if we say we use 古 on someone, that means somebody is well educated, literate enough to decode the message from ancient times, 10 generations earlier. So that's in Chinese, this 10 generation combined together to attribute to somebody who have that capacity to, connect way back when. Okay, Dong, it's the most complicated character in here. I translated the supervised because I actually reviewed Chinese slave owning history. Okay, because in America currently, right, the critical race here, a theory and all that, talks about looking back history, 300 years old history of here on this land, the slave history, recognize that. Okay, when I look at it, Chinese, this ancient language, it's right there, blatantly right there. Before I do the one word a day, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't imagine, but there's so much slavery encapsulated in the Chinese language. Chicken, our meat, chicken means slaved bird. And here, dong, supervise, means slaved labor, farming. Just like the recent slave history working on cotton farms, right, in America. But I would imagine back then, agrarian society, probably even before the formation of countries under one kingdom thing, like between tribes, right? When they were at war, the losing side would be incorporated into the winner camp or tribe, and then the man will be labor, farming labor, free labor, enslaved, and the woman will be domestic servants. That's probably happened a lot in a lot of regions in the culture history of many cultures. So I mean, critical race theory problem. I mean, in Chinese kind of a uni race, at least back then. It's tribe, right? Like who has that piece of land, and they probably operating in their own local regional culture, and probably 10 kilometers is enough to set apart the two regions. And they may have different customs and languages, dialects, right? Some kind of a trade in between, but most likely living their own lives. And then when they were battling it out, one tribe incorporate the other tribe in, they are not going to treat you as equal tribe members. It's slavery. Okay, so the slavery, how can I tell? This symbol, this convex shape connected with vertical line here, with two horizontal lines there. That's a symbol. Some scholars said it's a kind of ancient corporal punishment tool. I haven't came across to explain exactly what that tool, that kind of looking like that would be, but I would imagine it's quite inhumane and painful, inflict your physical pain on your body. So that's a corporal punishment tool. So that's itself, it already shows the consequence of disobeying, right? How you enslave people is their significant, their consequences if you're disobeying, right? And then the rest of them talks about a farming activity, because, okay, we have this, it's a shared symbol. Okay, so we have this bigger convex shape over here, and an arch, concave shape, downward facing arch, connected with a vertical line, which is shared with the corporal punishment tool. That is a tree symbol. And then we have this oval shape with horizontal line, that's a sun symbol. So the sun behind the tree means it's really early in the morning when it is breaking dawn. The sun is still looking as if it's embedded behind the tree trunk. So that's early morning. And then the bottom here, 2 horizontal lines, is soil symbol. The first horizontal line is the ground level, and the second is an indicator to indicate at the very root of a plant, the environment or surrounding of that root is what we're talking about. So that's pointing toward the soil because plants grow in soil, right? So that's a soil symbol. And then we have all together means early morning on soil. That's manual labor. That's the common enslaved farming activities, or in today's age is contracted labors or however farming labors is hard labor under the sun, right? So early working in the field is a common practice. So this dawn-breaking moment on soil, that's the farming activity day to day, toiling on the soil, image captured here. And then we have 2 plant symbol on the top to make sure, we understand it's growing plants and it's enslaved labor, growing plants. And the whole thing eventually means supervised. So I would imagine captured slaves gotta be supervised to be a productive force on the land. So then eventually it becomes supervised. So now my new understanding of 老古董 give me the idea of, okay, 老 depicts the appearance, how an old person look like, right? The cane, the unkept hair, the changed aging owing here. This is about a physical appearance. 古 means intellectually, that person can understand 10 generations ago, ancient practice. That's intellectual quality. 懂, supervise, right? Like you like to dictate to the younger generation how things should be done. You're supervising the young. So whoever have these 3 attributes, physical, intellectual, behavioral attributes in 3 dimensions, would be considered, I just learned this English word, fogey or foggy, somebody who is, stick to the old ways and keep telling people what to do. I'm picking up this image of Kong Yiji, probably 100 years ago, one of the most famous 20th century authors in the contemporary Chinese language. We call it a 白话文, like a simplified, colloquial, verbal expression of language versus the bookish, the old way of Chinese passage writing. This author, Lu Xun, I talked about him before in other episodes because he was so influential that when it came about the Chinese language, oftentimes we came across concepts that's related, pointing to this author. So this Kong Yiji was this character created by this author, depicting a class of people that's intellectual, but really was not, didn't make the cut to make it into the government. Because the intellectuals, their career path back then was after you passed the national exam, got stratified according to how you scored, then you're placed into government run agencies in different capacity according to how it scored, right? And this intellectual, many intellectuals like him spend their lifetime becoming an intellectual, trying to be, accepted, passing the exam, getting, becoming part of the government agency, but they didn't make the cut. So their whole life were spent on, maintaining their intellectual dignity, even if without a manual labor, without being, a farmhand or a craftsman, without making a living by using hands instead of using brain. Without that income, their living condition was not that good. So this novel, this short story, was depicting how the society was viewing such an intellectual who are poor, dirt poor, but have this intellectual superiority because so many years he was educated, he was imbued in the classical Chinese literature and all that he has been exposed to, versus everyday people who are just make a living, doesn't get bothered to think too much beyond their day-to-day life. So there was this interesting dynamic, and that's stock figure to represent Fogey, 老古董 in Chinese concept. All right, caching intercurrency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.